Hi, I'm Liz from D'Addario, and I am here with Taylor Morris, violinist, fiddler, and educator. And what are we here to do today, Taylor?
Liz, today we're going to talk about tightening the bow, which is something that we do all the time, but not necessarily something that we think about. There are a lot of important reasons to think about tightening the bow, and we're going to talk a little bit about how the mechanics of that work and why it's important that we're aware of this common action.
That sounds great.
Yeah. So the first thing that we'll do is we're just going to talk really quickly about the parts of the bow. Out here we've got the tip of the bow. We typically refer to this part of the bow as the stick. Right here we always have some sort of grip. It's either a piece of leather or some wire, something so that you can feel the bow under your index finger. Of course, we've got the hair on the bow, and then down here, this is the frog. This is the part where you hold the bow, and it's also the part where all the adjustments are made to the hair.
Okay.
And then we also, at the very end, have the screw, and that's going to be the thing that's going to make those adjustments for us.
Okay, and what kind of bow do we have here today?
So this is a wood bow. Most bows are wood, but there are also lots of bows that are made out of different synthetic materials. And the thing to know about wood is that we think of wood as being a pretty firm material, and it is, but wood is also fairly flexible, and it can be bent and molded into different shapes. And wood also has this sort of sponge-like ability to absorb moisture that's in the air. So that's why we want to have the ability to change the hair on the bow, because if we take this bow to a climate that has more moisture in the air or less moisture in the air, that's going to, in very tiny ways, shrink the bow or expand the bow, which is going to shrink and expand the hair and pull it or loosen it. So we want to have the ability to tighten or loosen the bow hair because it's going to change when we travel and when the weather changes. With the bow, the other thing that's important to know is that if we don't have the ability to loosen the bow hair, then all of that tension that's going to be caught in the bow, eventually over time that could warp the bow. It's going to change the shape of the bow, and you don't want to do that because then it's not going to respond the way that you want to, and it's going to give you a lot of problems. So we want to have the ability to adjust the bow hair for the safety of the bow, but also because different musicians like their bows different amounts of tight or loose because it can change the sound as you play. So you want to have the ability to adjust that.
Very cool, very cool. All right, so let's start from the very beginning.
You're probably going to start with some loose bow hair. You're going to take it out of your case, and it's going to be loosened because you loosened it before you put it in.
Very cool.
And when I tighten the bow, I'm going to hold it down here at the frog. I'm not going to touch the bow hair. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the screw here, and I'm going to turn it clockwise to tighten the bow hair, and I'm going to turn it counterclockwise to loosen the bow hair. A common phrase that you might hear is righty-tighty, lefty-loosey.
Words to live by.
Words to live by. So if you turn it to the right, it's going to go ahead and tighten that bow hair, and you want to get the bow hair to the point where it's straight, and so that it's no longer floppy and relaxed. And so once you have that bow hair straight, you want to see if right here in the middle of the bow, it should be about, the space between the hair and the stick should be about the width of a pencil.
Okay.
The other way that I often tell my students is that the distance between the hair and the stick should be about the same width as the bottom of the stick to the top of the stick. And when you tighten the bow, you don't want it to go all the way so that the bow is straight as well. You still want to have a little bit of a curve to the shape of the bow.
Okay.
And once you get it to that point, you're good to go. And then when you're all done practicing and playing, you're going to go ahead and loosen it so that the bow hair and the stick can relax. And the stick naturally has this curve to it, so you want to get it back to that curved state.
Very neat. So if I have a bow for a different instrument, not a violin like this bow is, what would that look like?
So all bows are basically the same in the sense that they have the same parts. They all are going to function the same way, but because instruments are different sizes, bows have to be different sizes too. So if you have a viola bow or a cello bow or a bass bow, you're going to follow these same principles, and you also still want to make sure that you're loosening the bow hair whenever you're done.
Do you have any tips or tricks that you want to leave us with?
Just remember, again, to loosen the bow hair, and when you put your bow away, I would always recommend to put it in the case. You don't want to like set it down on a chair and then go get a drink and come back into the room and not realize that you left it on the chair or on the couch because you might sit on it and break it.
Uh-oh.
Not good. In the same way that when you're practicing, you need to let your body relax, we also need to let the bows relax. So if you're gonna take like a 5-minute bathroom break, you don't necessarily need to loosen the bow hair. But if you're gonna take a 15 or a 30-minute break in the middle of your practice, it's a good idea, a good practice to get into to just go ahead and loosen the bow hair anyway, because you want the bow to have a chance to relax as well.
Very cool, very cool. And you mentioned before too that we shouldn't be touching the bow hair with our fingers. Why is that?
Right, so our hands and our bodies have these natural oils in them that sort of counteract what rosin does. And we actually have another video about rosin and about why we need to rosin our bows, so you should check that out. So that's the reason that we want to avoid touching the bow hairs, because it's just going to get in the way of the bow functioning at its best.
Okay, very cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.